Councillor Stagg, the meeting's now live.
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon and welcome to the Traffic and Transportation Portfolio Decision meeting, which is being held virtually. I'm Councillor Lynn Stagg, the Cabinet Member for Traffic and Transportation, and I'm chairing the meeting today. We are meeting virtually in response to the limitations placed on government by the COVID-19 pandemic. Until recently, the law stated that all members had to be present in the room to make formal decisions at meetings. However, the law was amended in response to the COVID-19 emergency, and councils are able to hold public meetings virtually. This will be in accordance with the local authorities' coronavirus flexibility of local authority meetings, Regulations 2020 number 392. Members of the public are invited to view this meeting, and there has been the opportunity for written representations to be submitted. This is a new experience for many participants, and we will all need to exercise patience and understanding while we familiarise ourselves with the new arrangements. Those present are requested to keep their microphones on mute and to only turn them on when they are called to speak. Members are requested to keep their cameras turned on at all times. Officers are requested to turn their cameras on only when they are presenting their reports or answering questions. If anyone would like to speak, please write their name and RTS, standing for request to speak, in the chat function. Please access it from the horizontal menu bar, right-click to bring it up, not the icon on the left-hand side. Each time you speak, please say who you are so it is clear who is speaking. If there are technical difficulties, we will endeavour to resolve these and, where necessary, have a brief adjournment, but the meeting can proceed where quorate. I will now explain the running order for this meeting. After apologies, after apologies for absence, members will declare their interest. Then I will receive the reports. Introductions. I would now like to invite those present to introduce themselves. I will read your names out, starting with members. Can you please reply by stating your name and saying present? I will pause for a few seconds between calling each person. Those who are not able to confirm they are present will be recorded as absent from the meeting. Can I ask everybody taking part to confirm that they are present? Cabinet Member, I call on Councillor Simon Bosher. Please turn on your microphone and introduce yourself.
Councillor Simon Bosher, Conservative spokesman for Traffic and Transportation, present.
Thank you, Councillor Bosher. I call on Councillor Graham Heaney. Please turn on your microphone and introduce yourself.
I'm Councillor Graham Heaney, and I'm the Labour Group spokesman on Traffic and Transportation.
Thank you, Councillor Heaney. I'll now just check if there's anyone else who is not being asked for and seeing who's present. I think that's the only ones we expected, the only members we expect. There's nobody else. Right, can I now call on Anna Martin, Democratic Services, to let me know if there are any apologies for absence? Anna, are you there?
I muted it, they couldn't.
Yes, you have, you're on mute.
Look, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, no, there are no apologies.
Thank you, Anna. And Anna, have there been any declarations of interest?
No, there's no deputations.
No declarations of interest.
So I thought it said deputation, sorry.
Are there are no declarations? Well, I can ask directly. Councillor Bosher, have you got any interest to declare?
No, Councillor Stagg.
Councillor Heaney?
No, Councillor Stagg, no interest.
Thank you. Right, I'll now explain the procedure for the agenda. I will introduce the agenda item and reporting of any written comments submitted by absent members or members of the public. And then I will ask the officers responsible to present the report. Anna, have there been any written submissions from members of the public or from other councillors?
No, there haven't.
Thank you, Anna. Right, we'll go on to the first report then, which is, I believe, e-scooters, and I think, is it Felicity, you're presenting this, aren't you? Could you introduce yourself, please?
Of course. Felicity Tibbury, Transport Planning Manager.
And would you like to go ahead and present
Thank
the
you.
report?
Yes, thank you. So the purpose of this report is to provide information on the Solent Transport rental e-scooter trial proposed to government and to seek approval to continue the development of the Portsmouth part of the trial. As part of the government's response to COVID-19 and to support a green restart of local travel to help mitigate reduced capacity on public transport, the Department for Transport is fast-tracking and expanding trials of rental e-scooters. The Department for Transport considers that e-scooters offer the potential for fast, clean and inexpensive travel, which can help to ease the burden on transport networks and allow for social distancing. On the 4th of July 2020, new legislation came into force enabling the DfT to approve a number of trial e-scooter rental schemes. Please note that private e-scooters are still not legal for the use on public land. On the 31st of July 2020, Solent Transport submitted a proposal to the DfT asking for permission to operate an e-scooter trial in the Solent area, with 4 sub-projects in Portsmouth, Winchester, Southampton and on the Isle of Wight. The DfT have indicated that they're largely content with the proposal, but require further details on which operator is to be appointed before a final agreement. Our procurement process is being led by Portsmouth City Council, which will conclude in October 2020, and Solent Transport will resubmit this information back to the DfT. It's therefore recommended that the Cabinet Member for Traffic and Transportation firstly approves the development of a rental e-scooter trial in Portsmouth, and secondly notes the contents of this paper and that a further report will be brought back in advance of the launch of a Portsmouth rental e-scooter trial for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicity. Councillor Bosher, have you any questions or any comments?
Thank you, Councillor Stagg. I have a couple of questions. In the Director of Finance's comments, the opening paragraph states the cost to date associated with developing the e-scooter rental scheme have been met from the existing cash limit resources. What is the cost to date so far on what we've done?
Sorry, so effectively...
Wayne, can you introduce yourself in case there are any members of the public watching?
Right, I'm Wayne Layton, I'm the Finance Manager at Portsmouth City Council. So what that's saying, Councillor Bosher, is that we haven't actually recorded the time, but it's officer time that's been spent on it. So there's been no additional expenditure on it other than officer time.
Okay, and just following on from that, if I can, Lynn, am I right in understanding that any costs associated with the scheme itself will be met by Solent Transport, not the City Council?
Correct. At this moment. Yeah.
Brilliant. I've got some comments, but I'll let Graham ask any questions if he has any.
Yeah, I have some questions. I have specific questions about the report and some more general questions that I'd like to ask about e-scooter trials. On the report, on paragraph 6.4, it says some suppliers of rental bikes offer the ability to geo-fence e-scooters to registered routes. No decision has been made at this stage as to whether Portsmouth will utilise this technology. Then on paragraph 9.4, it says information will be provided on which designated routes the e-scooters can utilise, along with the main restrictions and limitations of each route. So I'm not clear whether we have made a decision to restrict the routes by some electronic means or whether we haven't. Can you clarify what we are proposing to suggest to the operator?
Of course, Hayley, can I refer to you, please, as the technical lead on this, please?
Yeah, sure.
Can you introduce yourself, Hayley?
Yeah, no problem. I'm Hayley Chivers. I'm Strategic Transport Lead at the Council. So on the geofencing, we haven't made a decision yet as to whether we will or won't restrict usage on any particular routes. That decision is still to be made. We are aware that some suppliers have this technology, so once a supplier is appointed, we'll work with them, see what technology they have, and work with them to decide the routes, looking at with other stakeholders as to what restrictions might be required. So, but no decision is in place yet.
So what is 9.4 referring to in terms of saying information about which designated routes the scooters can utilise along the main restrictions or limitations of each route? So presumably the rental e-scooters will not be allowed to use all of the road routes, cycleways in the city. Is that correct?
Yes, so 9.4 is talking about communications and marketing. So it's talking about what information will be provided to e-scooter users as to where they can use it. They won't be able to use them on ordinary pavements, for example. So it will tell them which routes they're permitted on, and if there's any restrictions. So we could make different restrictions such as speed limits and things on those particular routes. Okay.
We agreed as part of the COVID-19 measures, the emergency travel measures, that we would open up the Guildhall Square to allow cyclists to use that. I think I'm correct in that, if I remember it correctly. Currently there are signs, but so presumably will e-scooter users be able to use the Guildhall Square as a route, or is that yet to be decided?
Again, that detail's yet to be decided, but it could be an option.
I think one mention about Graham is this is not just for Portsmouth, because it's in the 4 sites. So there's the Isle of Wight, Southampton, Winchester, and Portsmouth. So it'll be a common. I think. Am I right in saying that, Hayley? Common restrictions or common regulations for all 4 of them.
Yes, so we're looking at the traffic regulation order restrictions that are required, and effectively we'll be looking to allow e-scooters wherever bicycles can go, so bus lanes, cycle tracks, but we would have the opportunity to make any local restrictions on those and exclude any specific ones if we felt the need.
I mean, the reason I'm asking these questions is because you will probably be aware that a few days ago there was a news report saying that the Coventry e-scooter scheme had been suspended because of significant misuse, apparently, by e-scooter riders. I haven't gone into massive detail because I've been picking up the news reports and reading what they've been saying. I read 2 or 3 of them and some of the transport ones that have covered it more specially. But there is a concern that e-scooter users might decide, not to abide by these routes. We can set rules, but if they just ignore them, we don't seem to have any mechanism for dealing with it. And there is a real concern about that, I think, going around. And I'm not sure we've yet tied that down. I mean, maybe there's more detail to be added in terms of how we do that, but I'm sceptical at the moment that we have enough control. And I wonder if you want to comment on the Coventry scheme. Has it got less controls than we're proposing, or it seems to be a more wide scheme? They're going from the University of Warwick to the city centre, Birmingham. They may have not got controls. They may have not designated routes. I don't know. But has anyone got any views about what the impact of that could be if they've suspended it there? Will we have to consider more stringent measures?
Could I just interject, Lynn?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be unhelpful to Graham. As I understand what we're doing here, we're approving, or say Lynn is approving that we actually go forward with a rental scheme for e-scooters, which is going to happen in the springtime or there and thereabouts. So it's effectively, this report is giving officers the authority to go out and source a company that's going to hire the scheme, and they will come back with their proposals. And as we close in on the start date, so I'm guessing February time or something like that, there will be a more detailed report as to the who, how it's going to operate, where the routes are going to be. It's going to be a more technical one. So I share Graham's concerns in what he's saying, but I'm thinking you're probably 4 months ahead of the questions, Graham, if you see where I'm coming from.
Well, yeah, I sort of see what you, I think I understand what you're saying, but I do think these are quite important issues, and I don't want us to get to the stage where we've ready to sign up a company, we've done all the work, and then suddenly all these issues arise and we have to pull the plug. because that would look really rather stupid. We have to think about these things well in advance so that we can answer the concerns potentially that could be there. As I say, I'm not expecting to have answers to all of these questions today, but I'm just saying these issues need to be considered. And with the commentary scheme, as I say, I don't know whether the detail of how it operates, but we ought to look at why it went wrong and whether we can put something in to make sure that our scheme, if we do go ahead with it, doesn't go wrong. That's my
I would imagine that Hayley and the team will be doing exactly that to make sure that we have a scheme that's fit for purpose.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I'm making the comments I share your concerns, Graham. Apart from anything else, if we are going to sort of geo-fence the routes, there's nothing on the eastern side of the island for people to have that opportunity to actually use them there, if that's the case. So anybody that's sort of like a Cotner, Anchorage Park, Drayton, Farlington, Milton and whatever are not going to have the opportunity to trial these if they so wish to do so. And the other aspect of it, which probably relates into what you're referring to, is how is it going to be policed by the police? Because you've already seen a marked increase in private e-scooters. I mean, I was almost taken out by one in Drayton about an hour ago when I went to the vets, going along the pavement at a rate of knots, and narrowly missed a lady with a walker. So there's going to have to be a buy-in from the police to actually be proactive in this. And I don't mean dishing out fines, but also from an educational point of view, because our scheme is clearly designed towards those with a driving licence, therefore 17 and over, because you've got to have a driving licence to do that. And yet I would say that the vast majority of the people that I see riding e-scooters would be in that sort of 12 to 16 age bracket, and so therefore would not have a driving licence anyway. There are a lot of technical questions that would need to be satisfied, I think, to make sure we don't end up with a sort of an e-scooter Wild West going on in Portsmouth, and actually get something that is going to be fit for purpose. I think the principle is sound. I think the operation needs looking at very closely.
I think it's a good idea to have a list of the prerequisites we are looking for when we go. And I mean, I don't know how many people have, how many companies have contacted Hayley, but I'm thinking it's somewhere in the region of at least 30. I know what I've had and I passed on to Hayley. So there are a lot of people to choose from out there. Am I right in thinking that, Hayley?
Yeah, we've had 16 returns to the tender. One was non-compliant, so we're currently evaluating 15 tenders. If you want me to address some of the points you were talking about on the Coventry scheme, effectively, we were aware of some issues. We don't know the great detail of them, but what we will do is look to learn from that. And we have time to understand that in a bit more detail and make sure that that doesn't happen here. In terms of things like the policing, we are engaging with the police and we will continue to do so from now right till we launch, to make sure that we're sharing messages and they're on board with what we're doing. So
just to come back and finish off what I was just sorry. I've got one more question, which is about the report, which I'll come to in a minute. But I am, I think, a lot more sceptical about whether this is going to be a useful addition to non-petrol vehicle travelling. I will need to be convinced that this is going to make a significant impact. And the concern I really do have is that for example, on Wednesday, I was followed down 3 separate roads on the way into the city centre by 3 people on e-scooters using the road. One was in St Mary's Road, one was in Fratton Road, and the other one was on Winston Churchill Avenue. They were all 3 separate people. They were all using the road. One of them came down behind me as I was turning into Arundel Street left, drew up behind me, and then suddenly disappeared out of my mirror and dodged between 2 cars to get across the road. I mean, it's just when we were saying, for example, that we're going to have these identifiable scooters because they're going to have a separate colour, one report says that people have been, finding the paint to paint their own scooters the same colour. So and one question was whether we could have a proper identifier on the scooters that people can see, like a number or something that is easily visible. So that if somebody has a problem with a scooter rider, number 6, was zooming past me and nearly knocked me over at 11:15, they'll know who it is. But you've got to be able to identify who those are. So those are important issues, and I appreciate that this is early stages, but I think we've got to sort these things out quite early on, because I've already had a colleague share some correspondence with me that they've had as a ward council about the issue of e-scooters, mainly because of the illegal use, and this is making people really upset. The problem we've got to convince people is that if we want to see e-scooters used properly, we're going to have to deal with the illegal use, because the illegal use is making people think they're a complete menace, which they are in this sense. So we've got a bit of a hurdle to overcome, I think. The final question I wanted to ask was related to paragraph 13.3, and it goes back to my sort of general concern about making sure we do this right. It says, although there is no obligation to consult with the general public before introducing an ETRO, I think we should. I think we would be wise to consult about it rather than assume we don't. But I'll shut up now because it's Friday afternoon at 4:25, so I'll keep quiet.
Well, I agree with both of you. I have a list of concerns. I mean, I've seen some horrendous situations on Copner Road. How somebody hasn't been killed is beyond my comprehension. But I think some of the points that have already been made, the fact that they have to be 17 or over, have a license, they will have to sign a contract, and they can't, and they will be fined or banned or whatever if they break the rules, because they're not supposed to ride on pavements, etc. But I think ultimately, I mean, other countries can manage it really well. I don't know what it is about the British that a significant minority, it's not everybody, but there is a significant minority. And as you say, Simon, it's the 12, 13, 14-year-olds who are riding. Sometimes 2, and even I've seen one with 3 riding on one scooter at the same time. So hopefully this trial will lead to legislation which will govern the private use as well. But you're quite right, it has to be enforced, and there lies the problem. But it is a trial, and I think Hayley has got a long list of things that we want to see involved in the trial, the requirements that we want to see. And we'll see what the outcome of that is. Some things, for example, somebody contacted me to have bells on them because they're so quiet, you don't actually know when they're around, and lights as well, because if they're going to be going out at night or in the dark, you need some light. So I think there are lots of things that need to be on them and requirements. But I think Hayley will sort that out. But also, I think I ought to introduce as well Richard Lancaster, who's coming. He's taking over the e-scooters a bit. Richard, are you there? Would you like to show your face? And can I say welcome?
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm Richard Lancaster, a project manager working with Hayley and the team on the e-scooter project and some of the other projects that are coming forward as part of the future mobility zone. Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Won't be saying that in 6 months' time.
So there are 2 people at least who are working on this, and will definitely be taking up all the points you've made and points that have already been made, and there'll be more details coming through later on, because the Isle of Wight is going first. We will be learning, I think, from other people's experiences. There's an advantage in going in later than other people, as we can hopefully learn from their well, not mistakes, but things that they didn't think about. So other places are highlighting them. I mean, I'm pleased to give the go-ahead to this, because I think having a trial hopefully will lead to some decent legislation where we can control the rest of the illegal. They're not illegal scooters, but they're illegal to ride in the places a lot of people are riding them. So if we can get something done right, so I'm really happy to recommend that this goes ahead, and that we become part of the trial. And I hope it works, because I think it is potentially a great answer. I mean, for people particularly, I mean, I don't know that I would ride one actually myself. I think I'm a bit too old and doddery to do that. But for people like me who's the only person in the car, to have an e-scooter, it takes that car off the road. It's really good, rather than having a car with just one person in it. So and that will help our air quality and our congestion problems. So so I'm really happy to recommend that we go ahead with this. So thank you for that, Felicity. And now we come on to tendered bus services, which I think is you again, Felicity.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. So this report outlines the reasons for extending the existing tendered bus service contracts of the services 12, 13, 14 and 22 services until the 31st of March 2021. With the introduction of Bus Service 25 for a trial period from the 30th of August until the 31st of March 2021, this has replaced the tendered bus services of the 6 and 16, which terminated on the 29th of August. It is recommended that bringing all 3 remaining tendered bus service contracts, they're currently up until the 31st of December 2020, but to take them until the end of the financial year to the 31st of March will align all of the contracts and the termination dates. Also, by extending these contracts, it will allow for the council to obtain a more informed position as to the number of bus passengers who are travelling on these services, when it is hoped that service frequencies and passenger numbers may have returned to a near pre-COVID-19 levels. But this is obviously something that we will continue to monitor. Therefore, the recommendations of this paper are that the Cabinet Member for Traffic and Transportation extends the current tendered bus service contracts for routes 12, 13, 14 and the 22 until the 31st of March 2021 to coincide with when the current tender ends for the new service 25. Apologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicity. Councillor Heaney, do you have any questions or any comments?
Just one. When did the original contracts start? How long were they for? I know we're finishing in March. When did they start?
Simon, can I refer to you for that, please?
You can. Have I appeared now?
You have.
You have.
Can you introduce yourself, Simon?
Yeah, I'm Simon Bell. I'm the Public Transport Officer, Principal Public Transport Officer Council. The Service 12 started in January. So it's 12, 13 and 14 started in January 2019. I was trying to get the year right. Service 22, which is a longer standing operation, has been running for about, and I haven't got the exact date, about five and a half years now.
Okay.
Anything else, Graham?
No.
Simon.
Yeah, I just looking again for some clarity on the finance comments. As I understand it, the 12, 13, 14 and 22, the City Council finances those at this moment in time, broken out of the bus operators grant. And the new service, the 25, that's being funded by what's called the Better Deal for Buses grant. So I'm guessing that's a central government grant we're talking about. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Looking at the table in 4.4, am I right in saying then that come the end of, was it March next year, that the total cost of all of that in the first column, the full year cost, will have to be met by the City Council, or are there still going to be external grants available to cover some of it?
Yes, we probably will have grants. I think the point is that in April we'll be going out and tendering those services again. So the value of running those services may be different, and the extent to which we fund those services, probably better if maybe Simon or Felicity field that question.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We are looking to retender all of the routes and then bring that back for a decision on how that goes forward. And as I say, we should have an idea of passenger numbers at that time, and it's something that we can work with the operators on looking at some of the routes in the future.
Because the number 25, I mean, has that proved successful? So I know it's only been running for a short period of time, and it's more enhanced than, is it the the 6 and the 13, 14 that it's replacing.
6 and 15.
And 16,
Yeah.
because obviously the 100, well, if you look at the 65 grand, it far and exceeds what it's actually replacing. But so is that not that's going through this across the city at the south? So it's not a route that I'm particularly familiar with. Is it a significantly enhanced route then to allow for this extra cost?
Joining up two routes, because the middle section, which goes from the Strand, I think, through up Waverley Road and then into Devonshire Avenue down to the Hayling Ferry, that hadn't had a bus service for several years, that central section. I had some figures from Mark Reddy, the Managing Director of First, yesterday. The first 2 weeks of the 25, there were 950 passengers on the first week and 942 on the second week, which is encouraging, but it's still not enough. Nearly half of those were concessionary fares. So it's not paying for itself yet. So we've just got to try and encourage more people to use the buses. Because it's a catch-22 situation, you know. Not enough people use the buses, therefore they stop being financially viable, so the bus services drop them. So there's no bus services, so people use their cars more. And so you have a constant a downward spiral of bus services.
You're going to end up with hordes of privately owned e-scooters charging around instead.
Absolutely, lots of old grannies on them, like me.
Don't be stereotypical, Lynn.
But I'm happy for this to. Any other comments, Simon, or questions?
No, I mean, I was just trying to get my head around the cost. I mean, it would be useful because obviously there are usage figures that are published, and there's a mix of first and stagecoach there. So I think they're all first bus. They're all first bus, aren't they?
Yes.
It would be useful if we could periodically have details of the usage figures. It doesn't have to be done in this forum, but yeah, we have the COVID briefing just so we can see what the bus usage is and how where it's actually being used. Certainly where I am, we've got the number 22, which I suspect is very well used around Highbury, Costham and Wimmering, but when you get to Drayton and it goes down through Farlington to Sainsbury's, anecdotally, it's usually only one person on the bus and he's usually driving it, or she. So it would be useful to get some of those figures fed back on a regular basis, just so that we're in the knowledge, but that's a separate thing for another time, I think, Felicity.
I'm more than happy to arrange that. That's no problem.
Yes, yeah. Of course, what would be really useful in the future, and I think that's what we need to get done, is demand responsive transport, where you don't have the fixed routes, but it's serving the places that are not served by buses, by other bus routes. So people are forced to drive their cars, and if they haven't got a car, they're completely stuck. That's true of the 22, because you've got, particularly where you've got an elderly population, there's no other way from staying into Cosham. The 13 and 14 are the same, because parts of Milton, you're down the far eastern end, have no other access. The 25 for Eastney are going down to the ferry, and even for Old Portsmouth, because people in Old Portsmouth had no bus service, because the 8 and the 3 were changed, the routes were changed. So and with the 12, it's Tipner, they had no bus service at all. And again, it's only a short distance from Tipner into North End, but if you're carrying shopping and you're elderly, it's a long way to go. So it's serving those areas that, you know, it's a bit like Heineken, you know, serving the parts that other services don't serve. So
just on if I can, on a separate related question, what about north-south connectivity on the Eastern Road? Is that something that is featuring in the mindset?
Not so far.
Because quite clearly the Eastern Road is an issue. We're looking at a cycle lane there in whatever. But if you actually look at Drayton, Farlington, going down to Eastney, the seafront, and even down into the likes of Highland Road, Albert Road, there is no north-south connectivity that takes that in any ease. You literally, it's a number 23 that goes all the way down through North End, and if you want to go down into the Albert Road area, you're probably sitting on a bus for the best part of an hour. There is nothing that actually connects that end of it. And you've also got to look at it from a point of view of the commercial impact on places like Albert Road, and the fact that there is no easy means for anybody in the north of the city to actually get to those sorts of destinations other than by taxi or private car.
And of course, there are a lot of traffic down Eastern Road as well, which would be great to get a lot of that traffic off the roads, the cars in particular, if you had a good bus service to carry them. I mean, it's all very well. Yes, we want to get a lot of cars off the road, not all of them, but a lot of cars off the road. But you have to have an alternative form of transport to replace it. But people then have to use that alternative form of transport. There's a lot of people say, there were, for example, when the 15 was taken off, there was a petition to bring it back, and I think it was 250 people or more than that. That was the last I heard had signed it, and yet during the time, the last week or so that it was on, only 50 people used it. So what were the other 200 doing? Just putting their names to a petition and asking for things, but no intention of using it. So you've just got to weigh up the reality against the wishful thinking. Anyway, if you're no more
Councillor Stagg, can I just offer something on service 2 to Albert Road? In fact, the 2 does go to Albert Road. It comes all the way down from Copner Road, so it does serve part of the north of the city, Councillor Bowshire. It doesn't come from down the Eastern Road. The 2, and then the 2 comes down every 8 minutes. It comes down from Paulsgrove, and it comes down through all the way along Copner Road and then along Albert Road. So it does form some link, but not a link along Eastern Road.
It doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm being a bit selfish in the fact that I represent Drayton and Farlington effectively, and if you want to get anywhere from Drayton and Farlington, you're either going to take the 23, which takes you all the way down into the city centre, round to the Hard and down to South Parade, and you could be sat on a bus for an hour and 20 minutes to do that, or the 21 that sort of goes down and then into Anchorage Park, Copner Road, and gets halfway down before it cuts into the city centre. All roads seem to lead to the city centre when you're up in the north of Portsmouth. And as I'm saying, there are alternative destinations that people do like to use. We've seen the pressure on the seafront road and whatever, and a large chunk of Cossam, Drayton and Farlington, if they're going to the seafront, will use the Eastern Road. That would be what I would do. You go down the Eastern Road and you end up trying to find somewhere to park if that's what you're looking to achieve. There is no viable alternative when it comes to those sorts of destinations. That's sort of the point I'm making, but we're sort of going off message at the moment.
No, but I think it's a valid point, and it's something I think we could try discussing with the bus companies. But of course, it's all down to economic viability, isn't it? Because if not enough people use it, come back to the chicken and egg situation, not enough people use it, so the bus services get taken off, or they don't get put on in the first place because there's no evidence of demand. So maybe we need to do some research into what demand there would be to present some evidence to the bus companies. Is that a possibility, Simon Bell?
I guess it's possible to do something to find, yes, indeed. And of course, it may be something that I don't know the full details of the Transforming Cities funding and what in terms of improving bus services there, because there are some improvements to services there as well that may help.
We can certainly look into that and take that forward in terms of the bid that we've put in to see what options there are going forward. But yeah, we'll come back to you, Councillor Bowshire, on that if that's
fine.
Yes, having said all that, I think I'm in favour of accepting the recommendation, and I think that extension as well will give us time to do some work on perhaps finding new routes and doing some publicity and getting some information back from potential customers, because that's the only way we're going to get, well, it's not the only way, but it's one of the many ways we're going to get people out of their cars and into public transport if the buses are serving the places they want to go to. So lovely. So thank you. Yes, I accept that recommendation. And if there's nothing else, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Friday on a Friday. So, okay, happy. Good. Thanks.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye bye.
Peace.